Welcome to the Red Letters Podcast. In this podcast, we will explore topics that can be life-transforming while delivering a message of hope.
Hey guys, it's one of our podcasts today. We're doing it again. And one of the questions that was asked is the power to say no. Now, I know you guys have a lot of great information when it comes to the power to say no, because it's not always a bad thing to say no. But I don't know, Tony, do you want to start us off with that?
Sure. The power to say no. I guess a lot of times when somebody struggles with that, because I know I did, especially when I was in high school, I felt like the power to say no was actually kind of, after looking back, was kind of linked to my self-worth. Mm-hmm. That a lot of times when I didn't feel that I was worth either much or not as much as the two friends that I had that went home to their parents and I went home to my camper, I would turn around and feel that I was less than. So I would always be like what people call a yes man.
The yes man, yeah.
So I had to overcome that. And it wasn't even really me that was able to do that. Initially, it was actually after I gave my life to God and realized who He said I was and what He said about me that helped me have not confidence in myself, but who He says I am. And that transformed my life because then I was able to say no in a healthy way.
Right.
And I struggled with that prior to that.
No, that's so good. I think that it does start a lot in childhood. For many kids, when we're being raised or geared, our parents tend to tell us something and then they're like, no. And I don't know if you guys remember, but when the kids were growing up, what is the first thing that they knew how to do? It was like, no. So it's okay to say no to certain things. I mean, it's not a bad thing. But I think when we realize that we're saying yes, being the yes man, I don't think it has anything to do with the world or anybody else. It has a lot to do with the way we were guided in life. And we tend to be pleasers and we want to be the yes man. And sometimes that will get us into a lot of problems. Saying yes to everything and feeling unworthy and feeling like we're just doing it because we have to do it to either fit in or be part of the crowd. Same thing as fitting in. But so I'm looking today, I want to explore on the healthy part of saying no and why it's okay to say no.
Actually, one thing that you just brought up is when you're a child, it's probably one of the first things to do is to say no. I actually came across a quote, and it said, the human brain is hardwired to respond to no more quickly and more persistently than to say yes. No is stronger than yes. So I think that when we come into this world, it's easier to say no just because, that's how we're more wired. But then as life starts to beat you up and crushes the worth that you might have for yourself,
yes,
then that no is harder to embrace. It becomes a yes. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's important to get to that healthy way of saying no, because there's something that came across, I don't know where I found this thing, but this statement kind of has been almost like my go-to, and it's called, you deserve what you tolerate.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of times if you turn around and you don't say no to certain things and you say yes to everything, and then you feel that you're overwhelmed and your day went by, you weren't productive, you weren't able to accomplish the things you wanted to do because you said yes to everyone else. That's one of the things that, you kind of deserve that because you haven't chosen to say yes. Chosen to say no. You just keep saying yes to everything.
It's a lot of it has to do with confidence, would you say, Tony?
Yeah.
If they don't have the confidence in themselves to be okay with saying no, because once again, they'll feel rejected or feel that they don't belong. So it's easier to say yes, even though like you said, sometimes where it's what we're going through and we're okay with being overwhelmed. We're okay with us feeling less than just so we can make everybody else feel better. So like you said, when we heal from the inside out, those healthy no's come naturally. You can say it without feeling that guilt or feeling overwhelmed or feeling like you let anybody else down, because now you're working on yourself. And if we think about it, when you say no, like if somebody asks you for a favor, somebody's car breaks down, you're not going to say, no, I'm not going to go help you. But when you have 100 things going on in your life and someone out of the blue, and it's usually family, My nephew's here with me today. Can you cook something for me? Well, it's okay to say no. It's okay to say it in a nice way. You know what? Today I can't, but what if I try to do it for you another day? Something like that. But be okay with not beating yourself up and not being overwhelmed with having too much to do, and then not wanting to say, not just jumping in and saying yes all the time.
Has either one of you had a tough time saying no in a certain season of your life or any of that?
There's been many times that I've had struggles saying no. I was always a yes person, even with family, especially because I think that if somebody out there is listening, I think a lot of the times we think to ourselves, it's difficult for us to say no because one, we want to try to avoid conflicts with family. Mm-hmm. Maybe you don't want to disappoint someone from saying no, or maybe they're going to look at you differently.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of my biggest things is how are they going to view me? What are they going to think about me if I say no? And I got to the point where you have to ask yourself, and I've learned is, asking that question. If somebody's asking you to do something or asking a favor of yours or something like that, and you deep down inside don't want to do it or don't want to say yes to it, then sometimes it helps just going back and asking that person, well, why is it you want me to do that? Or what's the reason behind it? Because sometimes that helps you in your mindset think, okay, you know what? Maybe, because even to think about maybe what's the tactics behind them wanting to ask you that, because sometimes they might just want to ask you to do something because they're either too lazy to do it or they just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They figure, I'm going to take advantage of you because you know what? You'll never say no to me, And so if you can discern between that, what's their motive behind it? What's their tactic behind it? Or maybe they're sincere about it. And maybe, I really just need your help. You could say yes, but to say no sometimes, and I know it's very, very difficult, but sometimes you just have to get to the point where you just say it. You just say no. And, and do it in a loving way, do it in a way that you help them understand that, I really can't at this moment. And I would love to, but maybe, or even to say, if it doesn't fit your schedule at that moment, let's just, what, why don't we figure out when's another good day? And if they can't really work it out that way, then they're going to have to find someone else to help them.
Exactly.
So saying no is only as difficult as you make it difficult, because a lot of the times our minds want to take us all over the place. Our thoughts want to take us all over the place. And we're thinking, and we make it harder than what it really is. And sometimes you just have to really, really, really just say it.
Right.
And know that, and walk away with a peace of mind knowing, I said it. And you know what, however, and if that person no longer talks to you again, or let's say they don't want to have anything to do with you anymore, you know what, then they didn't deserve your friendship. That shows the root of their, it reveals their heart to you and their motive to you in the first place. And if not, they're gonna, if they understand and they're truly your friend and they understand where you're coming from, then they're gonna accept your no. And keep your friendship.
No, that's so good.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that you kind of touched on, I think it's important when you're not used to saying no to certain things or even certain people, because there could be powerful people in your life, whether it's a parent or whether it's a boss or any of that kind of stuff. And the beginning of saying no, sometimes you could start off with some of the little things that maybe don't carry as much weight or are not as important, so that you could kind of evolve to being able to say no to the bigger things. Right. I think that sometimes that's a starting point, just being able to say no to some of the little things, because at the end of the day, there's people that are kind of cross your path in life that they carry weight because of either their position in your life or how much power you've given them in your life, that some of those people like to control. Mm-hmm. And if they're controlling something, they can turn around and know that you're the go-to person because you're always going to say yes. So there can be manipulation involved too. So I think when you said about the motive, That's very important, you know?
Well, another thing when you were talking, Mary, earlier about the child learning, the first thing they normally learn is the word no.
Right.
And what we think about too, being a parent or being an adult, telling a child no, it's so simple to say, no, 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 don't do that. Don't
Right.
touch that. Nope, that's you know?
Right.
And it's so simple. And sometimes I think about that too when you're
an adult.
struggling to say no to an adult.
Right.
Think about, other times maybe, did you tell a child no, or did you tell someone, how easy was it to tell them no? And was it easy to tell them no? It's because you really cared about them and you
Right.
cared about, basically the consequence that might happen if let's say a kid went and stuck a knife into an outlet and
Right.
no, don't do that. It's not, it was simple because you care about them, you love them enough to say, no, I know you're going to hurt yourself. Don't do that, So think about stuff like that too.
No, I think that's really good. I also wanted to touch on the question that you asked Tony about have we struggled with that? And the other thing that you said, when your life was transformed, it was easier for you because you knew the value in yourself to say no to people. I actually had an incident in one of my jobs where the supervisor, they devalue you and basically they'll ask you to do more things in your job. And I overheard her say, "Don't worry, Mary will say yes because she really cares for the children." And I had to sit back and I was like, well, now I'm going to say no. But it was more of a no not to work with the kids, but it was a no for her to understand that I did have value. I may not have felt like I had value at some point in my life, but at this point I did. So when she came to me, she's like, we're going to do all of these things. And they added more. And I hope she's watching because that was really mean of her. So I had asked for a raise. She was really quick to tell me no, but in the way that she said it was so politely and made it seem like it was the best that I didn't get the raise. But went ahead and gave me more work. So then I just, exactly how she did it, I was able to respectfully say, I declined to do all this extra work because it's not within my job duties, and which I typically did. I didn't mind doing it, but I saw the manipulation in it. And a lot of times, even at our employers, we don't say no to them for whatever reason, but we're so quick, like you said, to go home and say it to our spouse and say it to our child. When in reality, if we do have that self-worth, we should be doing it everywhere. When it benefits them and us, but don't let them manipulate you, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I find a lot that when you said the transformation of mind, obviously when you got saved, things are a little different, even the way that you look at them. So with that being said, I do feel that a lot of people take advantage of your good heart, of a person's good heart. Dr. Miles Monroe says the issue with the person with a big heart is that we never find people like that. We tend to find or attract a different type of person. So a person that knows, oh, he goes to church, oh, he's a good person, oh, they tend to want to manipulate the situation to get you to say a yes because they don't understand why you wouldn't just do it. And I find that to be something that's troubling to me. So for those people, because I think for most of us, we can kind of see like they're just using me. They're seeing how far they can get with me. And I like the fact that I can now speak up for myself because just like you, I was in a dark place where I didn't know how to, I believed I had no self-value. So it wasn't easy for me to say no. I was a people pleaser and I just wanted to make sure that everything got done and that I was there to just make the other person feel better. But when I see the person being manipulative and trying to get me to do something just because, oh, she goes to church, oh, because she loves God, oh, they use those reasons, then I'm a quick no, I'm not doing it. And I don't feel bad about it at all. So, and then the other thing that I wanted to touch on really quickly was, I think right now more parents need to learn to say no to their children. I believe there's so much going on and they're learning things out in the street, they're learning things at school, and they come home and they present, I want a new cell phone. They're 5 years old. They're 7 years old. I want this. And we go out and we get it for them. We don't, because we feel so bad because we didn't have it when we were little or we went through this. And we try to over-compromise with our children for what we didn't have. And we're quick to say yes to so many things. We're going to get them this. We're going to let them go there. We're going to let them, do things, watch something that they're not supposed to watch because we don't want to hurt their feelings. But in reality, I know that one of our future podcasts, we're going to speak about parenting. But what we're doing, we're actually hindering their growth. We're actually hindering a child when we cannot say no to them because I believe there's a time and a place for everything. And when the child is not developed enough to understand certain things, they shouldn't be working with different or having devices in their hand that they have access to that they don't know how to say no to. So it has to be us as the parent talking down to our child, guiding our child, cultivating their being grown-ups. Because they're not going to stay children forever. So in that, we have to learn how to say no to our children. And it's actually going to benefit them in the long run, benefit us as a parent, but it's going to benefit them and society, if that makes sense.
No, I think that's totally perfect because if we as parents can't turn around and say no to our kids, then when the authorities of life step into their life and they tell them no, they're just going to rebel.
Yes.
And one of the things that I've noticed, now that I have a grandson, Atlas, shout out in case you're hearing this someday down the road, is that it's kind of a confession, but then something that I feel that I've been learning more of is me and Ida, we have 5 children, and I would say no to certain things as they were growing up. But looking back, I don't know if I explained the why as much.
Yeah.
But now that I have a grandson, I'm catching myself explaining the why more. And it seems like he's listening a lot quicker because I'm explaining the why instead of just saying the no. Mm-hmm. So I think that's something important to keep in mind to when you're saying no, to say the why.
Right.
If it's applicable or if it makes sense for that particular situation, because then you're sharing your heart and you're not just saying no just to be rude.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
I think that's really good.
Yeah.
I don't think many parents think of that because we, for whatever reason, believe that our children don't have feelings. Sorry. But I think that we tend to do that without explaining, giving them that explanation. So I think that makes a lot of sense. And it actually helps the child, like you said.
Yeah. And I know too that, what do you call it? Like even with my kids, I know I was working a lot, and not that I'm not working now, but I was just more in the day to day. And I kind of robbed my kids of not saying why because I was too much in a hurry to get on and do what had to get done that day. Where now I'm like seeing, hey, slow down a little bit because who you're talking to and who you're explaining this to, it needs to resonate for their good. And, because one thing that I've heard before is that if you raise your children right, you'll enjoy your grandkids.
Yes.
If you don't raise your children right, you're going to raise your grandkids. Mm-hmm. And that's been kind of, on the back burner of my mind lately, just realizing how important that is. Mm-hmm. And that does a lot have to deal with saying no, because if you say yes to everything they're going to be spoiled.
Yes. So I just wanted to touch on this really quickly. I'm sorry. Did you have something?
Oh, no.
Wives, I believe if you are listening, we as wives need to learn to say no to our husbands and not to be mean. Tony's the only one here. But I believe that women take on such a role in the home with raising the children, with getting the groceries, with making sure the maintenance and everything around in the house is done and completed when the man works outside the home. And they're running around with the child and doing 100,000 things. And the husband, for most people, I'm not talking, I don't know about you guys' relationship, but for most couples, the husband has a role where he comes in and he does very simple tasks, not involved with the children. So I believe that when you start out in a relationship, if the husband is being conditioned to believe that all we need from him is to be provider, just go out and work and then come home and pretty much not do anything, not be involved with the family, that's exactly how the relationship is going to turn out. So women, wives, need to be okay with telling the husband, I cannot, I will not. No, I can't do this. I'm taking on too much. Mm-hmm. And we can do it in a respectful, loving kind of way where we're talking to our partner, our significant other, and they understand, like, okay, I get it. It's too much on her plate. Because I think women, we're Wonder Women, where there's something where we can do so much more, and we're constantly trying to do that without caring for ourselves. And I don't think that means that we don't value ourselves. I just think that when it comes to our children and our husbands and our home and our jobs, we're always focused on trying to do too much for everybody else, and we forget about us. And for the mom out there, especially the single moms, it's okay to tell your child, no, I can't today. It's okay to, if you have a family member, to say, could you help me? Could you help me? Because my plate is too full and I just can't do it. And that's good for the person, because overall, my goal in life is that we would make a better society, that we would create a community where people can actually get along. But if you're hurting, Tony, and you go out there, chances are the only thing you can give is what you have. And if you're hurting, you're going to hurt somebody else. Ida, me, the same thing. If we can only give what we have in our cup. So if we're not 100%, we're never going to give 100% to anybody else. So for moms out there, wives, it's okay to tell your, in a loving, kind way, tell your significant other, I can't, no, I won't do it today. It's okay, I think, because we also have value and we need to embrace that.
Yeah, I think communicating is a big deal, because it's not, you could almost say no in a conversation without even having to say the word, because you explained your point.
Yes.
And you're trying to convey it to the other person that you're talking to, so that they understand and comprehend where you're going with the answer that you're coming up with, so that they don't, they understand, and they're not like so quick to, point the finger that you're not this, and that. You know what I mean? And I just think that that's important. The communication's a big deal in saying no.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think it might be best for maybe this could be another topic for another day, but I think setting the atmosphere in your home when your husband does come home.
Oh, that's good.
Because it's, if, let's say, depending on the relationship, depending on, what's going on in the marriage, you got to be careful sometimes, because you don't know. Yeah, right. For me, it's a little bit of a touchy subject, because to me, it's like if the atmosphere in the home is chaotic,
right,
and there's a lot of stuff going on, sometimes it might not be so easy to say no. It does. It's communication. But if anything, I think it goes down to the root of the relationship, if, how's the love, the romance, the intimacy, all that stuff combined together has a lot to do with,
right,
setting the atmosphere. And sometimes you don't really have to verbally just say no, because if everything's good in the marriage from the get-go, or healthy, if you have a healthy marriage, I think a lot of that stuff comes naturally, where the husband will come home and say, honey, what do you need help with? Let me help you with something, because you're already, you're satisfying him, he's satisfying you. And I'm not just saying intimately, but I'm saying all around.
Yes.
So that would be, something that I think could be a later topic.
Oh, yeah.
To talk about.
Yes, I think that would be a good one. Also, you said saying no without saying no. I think that's really good. And Ida, when you said just sometimes we have to just use a firm no. And that's when you realize, it depends on the relationship you have with people or whomever's asking you for something. Sometimes we do require a nice firm no. But I believe what Tony said is sometimes you can say no without actually having to say, no, I can't do it. It's in conversation and the relationship you have with that individual. You can kind of say it without having to say it to hurt anybody's feelings, but also to know that, I put it out there. But like I said, there are some people that need that firm no, so they understand, no, you cannot borrow money. Yeah. No. You tell it, I'm talking about my kids, no, because you're not going to pay back. So sometimes you just have to have, use a firm no with some people. And then the other times it just comes out in conversation without even having to say it.
That's so good. So how
Can I say one thing? It just came to my mind right now, because I was thinking about what you were just saying right now about our children, because I have a tough time saying no to my kids. And it's not that there's times I want to say no, but then I just love any opportunity I have to help them. But it was crazy because it just came to my mind right now. It's when you say no, ask yourself, oh my gosh, I should have just went straight to that point.
Well, maybe this will help you.
Yeah.
My son came to me and he said, Mom, do you have any money? And I said, of course, I have a lot of it. And he said, you do? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, can I have some? I'm like, no, no, it's mine. But it was okay to say no to him, even though I was playing. And I know that I was playing like, yeah, I have a lot of it. But I was just being like that to him because it was like, no, you're not going to get anything from me, because that's a form of manipulation, especially with your kids. Like, Mom, do you have this? The way they present it. Did it come to you?
Well, I'm going to use another word because
Yeah.
the word I had at the moment just popped in my head, and next time I'll just say the word when it comes out. But when you're doing something like when I do it for my kids, I'm willing to do it.
Yeah.
Even though I don't want to, or not that I don't want to. Maybe I don't have it, or maybe it's something. Reverse that. I have it, but I wanted it for something else. But then I willingly give it to them. You know what I mean? But you
Yeah.
have to be, when you say no, or you have to say no, or you know what? I don't want to kill it.
Yeah.
Well, one of the
I'll
things
come
that
back to it if I remember it.
one
I'm
of the
sorry.
things that you kind of triggered when you were talking about that is a lot of your ability to say no is probably based off of your upbringing.
Yeah.
Because why I'm saying that's because like me growing up in the household I was, raised in, no was a common thing. So it's easier for me to say no to my kids. But like with Ida, in her upbringing, there was very little, almost never was she told no. So
Always
it's
yes.
hard for her to say no because she didn't really receive the no's.
Oh, wow.
So I think there's different factors, they all play a different part. But if you're having a hard time saying no, you might need to kind of look at what the root is.
Right.
Is
Okay.
it an upbringing? Is it just my self-worth?
Yeah.
Do I feel like I just don't measure up? It just,
Well, in my case, I was being foolish. It was the foolishness because I would throw a fit until I got what I wanted.
Nice.
And my
No.
parents didn't know how to say no, But my mom, on the other hand, she was more of the disciplinary. My dad wasn't. So I'd always go to my dad, and I'd get what I want. Always.
Yeah, I come from a
Always. But
household of
foolishness
no's.
was the root of it.
Foolishness. I come from a household of no's. It was no, 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 nothing. And my husband also knows. So in my household, my husband's like, no, 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 you can't have anything, no. And then they come to me and I do what Ida does. Even though I have it, even though I know I should say no, a lot of times I cave and I say yes. But I'm learning to say no though, because I know that they're manipulating me.
yeah. So at the end of the day, it's important to be able to say no, and how you go about that to whether you're going to hurt somebody's feelings or not, whether you're just saying yes because you feel like you don't deserve to say no. I think all of these different factors come into play on the power to say no, because there is power in saying that. And like, we mentioned earlier, that's one of the easiest things for a child to do, because that's your mind is wired that way.
Yeah. So much power in two little words. It's such a tiny little word. Yeah.
Would you like to wrap it up for us, Mary?
Well, I think we'll wrap it up with this. Just know your self-worth. Know when someone is trying to manipulate you. Know that you can be there for someone within reason, and never feel overwhelmed, ashamed, or feel bad about saying, I can't do it. No. At the end of the day, if we're 100%, we can give that much to somebody else or the world. And that's it. Like, just have the power to say it. I know it's a strong word, but have the power to say no when it involves your mental health, it involves your life.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you
All
for
right.
joining us on this week's podcast. See you next week.